Hi guys, welcome back. This is the Above Average FPL podcast. My name's Adam, joined by Baker, but also joined by Dean Ashton. Dean, how you doing, mate? You all right?
Very well, chaps. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
No worries, mate. No worries, mate. We were saying just as the lobby was ticking away, there's a chat straight in from Big Lou who says, "Pick Dean in my FPL team, opening game of 2007. I think he scored 2 goals and got in the dream team that week. Mad respect."
that must have been early fantasy as well, and he got my last 2 goals ever as well. So I was done. I was done after that. I was done.
Yeah, but I mean, Big Lou got all the points. That's all that matters. That is all that matters.
Exactly.
That is all that
He
matters.
didn't get a role in game week 2 though.
No, immediate transfer. Damn it. Oh, how's the international break been treating you, chaps? How you doing, Baker?
Long. I've quite enjoyed it. I don't think I've ever switched off so much. I've been like trying to last couple of days. I had a sort of long train journey yesterday, so I managed to sort of a little bit of catch up. But yeah, just completely switched off. And then it's like, oh God, presses, tomorrow, presses, all that stuff, and trying to work out what we're gonna do, and it's weird. So yes, we need to talk about it.
Sounds good. You've been watching the international football, Dean?
Yes, yeah. No, I always make sure that I watch England and across as much as I can, but I wasn't technically working on it, so good opportunity for me to sort of, again, probably like you guys, just have a little break, do some bits with the family, and just keep an eye out on the players in my team, making sure they're not injured or what they've done, whether they've scored, etc., and keep an eye on England, really.
Fair enough. I mean, it sounds like the FPL world has really kind of sucked you in now.
Yeah, immediately. Keeping an eye on the players of my team. So anyone who's watching this, it's not like we've just got Dean Ashton on because he used to play football. We've got Dean Ashton on because he loves FPL.
I know. Honestly, once it grabs you, obsessive, like stupid things, like, the wife saying, "What? Why are you watching Burnley v Stoke? Why?" And just, there's a clean sheet on here. There's a clean sheet.
Yeah, that's it. I need Nick Pope, who's just back in the Burnley days. I need Nick Pope to make that 6th save.
Yeah.
Because he's there for a 10-pointer, definitely.
I once had a triple Burnley defence in one game, and I can't who they're playing, but they did hold on. Charlie Pope, and I think it was me. I think I had were the 3 in that, and that was genuinely probably the worst experience of FPL, just counting every second of that. But yeah, when did it grab you?
I would probably say properly maybe 4 years ago. I've got to admit, I thought the first 2 or 3 years that I was half playing it, I just was like, this isn't real. It's a bit like computer games. I'm not that into computer games, so I was a bit like, it's not particularly real. But then once I got into it properly, and the stat side of it, I love because of my job as well. It's given me loads of different angles on stats and helped me with my commentating and punditry. And I use a lot of the platforms with fantasy to help sort of build my case for any team and any player. So I've loved that side of it. And ultimately, because I played, I'm desperate to make sure I beat my mates, because all they want to do is then take the mickey out of me if they beat me.
Yeah. That's it. It's about to say, yeah, just beat the footballer. I can do that. That's good. I can beat the footballer at something football related. That's exactly what they want to do, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
How's your season going this season though, mate? You're smashing it at the moment, right?
Yes, I am, and I think maybe a slight change in my mentality. Obviously, taking it more seriously, so looking at things a little differently. And probably say patience has been the absolute key. I would say to my sort of good start this season is not. I've not made one sort of knee-jerk reaction at all this season, and that feels like it's kind of paid off. And maybe looking at more chunks of games rather than 2 games where I might be able to do something with a player, thinking a bit longer term. And yeah, I'll happily talk about it at the moment while I'm doing well.
Do it, mate. Yeah, I mean, just sing that stuff from the rooftops for sure.
Yeah.
Tell us how well we're doing. What's the rank?
21.5K, which is very good for me in terms of where I've sat previously. So very, very happy. I mean, Palmer captain for that game, I think was pretty key, to be honest.
Yeah, it was massive. And how many transfers in the bank?
Just the 4. thinking about the magical 5.
Thinking about it.
You just take it over, mate. It's just where's the Dean Ashton channel? Just do that and we'll subscribe. It's mad. It's mad.
Yeah,
it's quite a lot in the chat come to see you. I was we caught up at Fest, didn't we? And I remember you asked Andy how Flapjack was doing, and Flapjack's in the chat. I know you're a fan of Scoutcast. Andy Martin in there, Corf, all the people there. Everyone loves you, mate.
They're all talking about talking about your time at Crew. They're talking about your time at Crew and Champman and stuff like that, which is quality.
Champman was always a big thing that people talk to me about. Yeah, which again I didn't play, but apparently, I was just a no-brainer. He got me as a 17, 18-year-old, and next minute I was scoring in the Champions League final, apparently.
So to give you a little bit of insight into how mad this world is, are you aware there's actually a fantasy Champman game where so this is how deep down the rabbit hole you can get with this game. So basically what happened during COVID, during lockdown, is that there was obviously no football, and there was no football. So a bunch of people in the FPL community created, basically they simulated Champman over and over again and created a fantasy game, which people would then pick teams through spreadsheets and stuff like that, and then submit these spreadsheets, turned into a website, etc.
It's amazing.
It was absolutely incredible. Still going at the moment, and it's absolutely mad. That's how deep down the rabbit hole you can get with this game. It's nuts. Yeah.
No, I've only just scratched the surface. I'm not going to lie.
I'd stay there, mate. Stay there if I can get a bit mad. So yeah, game week 8, and for anybody that hasn't caught up with us before, we're going to be looking at some graphics from Rob T, who has some SpreadX market data, looking at some of the games where we may be looking to focus on this week, where we can look to pick up goals and clean sheets, etc., and look at the games where they've got sort of the biggest disparity between winning and losing, because they're the ones we want to be focusing on. I think there's a few people on wildcard, so maybe those guys, we've got a ticker we can look at if we get time. But then we'll also obviously go through our teams. We'll look at my team, we'll look at Baker's team, and we'll look at Dean's team. And if you're in the chat, hello to everyone in the chat. If you're enjoying the video, make sure you hit like on the video. And if you want to see more from us, hit subscribe. And you can go and follow Dean at the Dean Ashton on X, Twitter. Go and show him support over there. And if you have any questions or anything like that, please do just drop them in the comment section. And we'll try to get to them as we go. So should we fire away with the games?
Let's get the games up, mate.
Let's get the games
up.
Do it. So big game this weekend: Spurs versus West Ham. as the opening game of the game week.
Just a bit, and obviously as ex-West Ham, they like to get one over on Tottenham, and looking at that, I can see why. I think Tottenham have been the best team this season. Watched them live and seen the stats that they've built up in terms of the domination with the ball, the chances created, all of those things. I've been so impressed actually with Tottenham, and have to be taken very seriously now. All the attacking players in particular, I think.
I mean, it's definitely big that we had a big old training video came out earlier, like 7.5 minutes of.
Yeah, it's long, isn't
it? I thought it said 2:46 when I first started watching it, and then it got to like 3 minutes, and I had to look again. I was like, 7? Oh Christ! Okay, so they're gym, on the pitch, everything. So everyone's back.
You do back. Same as me in that, and then you watch the bit in the gym. You're like, but yeah, that doesn't quite qualify. So if you're just in the gym, I need to see you running on the pitch, even though they're just standing and hitting the ball. It's like, yeah, it's a bit more than just gym work. Like I've got to see them, got to see the bibs.
but they're all there. They're almost all there, right? Odebear's the only one that's still not around. So, I mean, there's definitely a lot of questions. And for people that are listening, Tottenham sitting here, expected 2.4 goals, West Ham 1.18, and Tottenham with a clean sheet percentage of 31%. So that does feel quite high. And I mean, Dean, just give us that head-to-head stat again that you gave us pre-pod, because.
Well, I've speak to plenty of West Ham fans, and when this game comes around, they love the fact that they've got one over on Tottenham many times recently. They've only won 3 of the last 10 all competitions, Tottenham against West Ham. So that makes it feel high. But then again, it wouldn't surprise me if they scored plenty of goals in the game, but I don't think it necessarily means they're going to win the game.
True. I mean, we could be looking at a 2-2, 3-2, something like that, in which case, from a fantasy perspective, a lot of us win anyway, right? So that's it. So I think I'm just trying to think. A lot of people have got Solanke at the moment. Some people are looking at a midfielder, and quite a few people have Porro. Some don't, I guess. Who's the midfielder that you would sort of aim to sort of go in at now that, like, Brennan's gone back up to like 6.5. Kulusevski's there 6.5, and Maddison's obviously 7.5, and Son's now back fit
9.8
and 9.8. Yeah,
I think Maddison's gone under the radar a lot. He's already had, plenty of goal involvements, and feels like he's nailed to start. And actually, the way they've played, they've actually put at times a second number 10 almost in and around him, and it's freed him up a little bit. It means he drifts wide a little bit more and then can deliver. If you think of the goal that Porro scored against Leicester, where Maddison sort of draws a little bit out to the left, then he's able to deliver the cross for Porro to score. I've seen a lot of that from Maddison, and not to jump ahead, but obviously we're not quite sure on Saka's injury. And if you've got that extra bit of money, I think, people look at Brennan Johnson, absolutely they should, because he's been terrific. But Maddison's still that quality player that he has been for the last 2 or 3 seasons, and they're creating way more and got more of the ball as well this season. So I will be considering Maddison. That's for sure if Saka's injured.
It's a couple of little things that I picked up just before we a little bit earlier on today. So Maddison has more XG than Saka. He's created more big chances than Saka. His XA is just behind him, but he still had 3 assists. I mean, he's not far off of Saka's underlyings, to be fair. Like, he's very, very close.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think Maddison, I think I spoke about Maddison maybe pre-season, but haven't really looked at him since. But he's just been ticking along really nicely, and he's been getting good minutes as well. We thought that he'd be pulled off sort of 60, 70 quite often, because he had been last year. But I think we've seen a lot more sort of 80 plus, haven't we? Just over the 80 mark, which I think is a lot better, obviously a lot better for him.
And he's fully on set pieces. Porro took quite a few when he had he is fully on set pieces as well. So with Romero, Van der Ven, the threat that they pose as well, I think, he has to be considered. And I am surprised how sort of lowly owned he's been, considering what a talent he is.
Yeah, it definitely is. I think it's just the distraction is Brennan, and like if Brennan wasn't there, if Son wasn't there and stuff, I think everyone, or even Solanke, people would be like, oh, Madison, interesting. Like last 3 games, 0.3 XG, 0.5 XG, 0.98. Like they're good numbers. He gets fouled a million times a game. So if he does score, like it's a minimum 10-pointer, because he's going to be at least 2 bonus. Like somebody would have to score a hat trick basically to get past him. I think in the last 2 games he scored, it's just like guaranteed. And like you say, minutes are good. 84, 76, 87 last 3 games.
Yeah,
it's good numbers. It's really good numbers.
Yeah, the only thing that irks me a little bit about Tottenham is we don't know who's taking penalties, do we? With Solanke being signed, if I'm being signed for that money, I am expecting to take penalties off Son. I just am. I would expect it. Solanke takes penalties. You want your goals tally. So I'd be interested to see, and that would then maybe change my mind as well on who you look at.
Yeah. The problem just seems to be that we don't get penalties. So it's like, I don't know if it's an Ange thing or it's a Spurs thing, but we don't get any. So it is difficult. There is almost like Son, Porro, Brennan, Solanke, Madison. Like there's five guys there that are, and it's like there's five guys that all of a really good price. Like Son under 10 million is a fantastic price. You know, normally we'd be like, well, if Son is on penalties and he's and the price he's at, like it's a really good pick. But there's also the part of saying, do you want to triple up on Tottenham? I mean, it's hard. It's emotionally hard for us in that we're both Spurs fans and stuff. But I think everybody else, yeah, I'd feel for anyone that has to welcome the world of Spurs letting you down the weekend. But I think it also depends what you want to do with the money, because I think a lot of people obviously want. People are going to be looking at Mo in 10 in a couple of weeks. People that have Palmer want Palmer. People that want Saka. And we'll look at Dean's statement a bit, and we'll see a team with Saka and Palmer in, and it's where do you know? So therefore, it's that next level of midfielder. It's difficult unless it's, say, Brennan. Like that extra sort of 0.8 wherever it is million is a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. It becomes a very quick, I've got to sell Trent, basically.
Yeah. Are there any West Ham players that you've been looking at, Dean, at all, or any that have caught your eye other than, I mean, is Bowen in your thoughts at all?
No, I don't think he is yet. I'd want to see a little bit more consistency from West Ham in general with their whole performance. I think he can always deliver. I think he's easily the standout pick for West Ham, if not the only pick really at the moment for them. And it's just if there's a consistency of performances, I would maybe look. But again, in that bracket that he's in, you know, he's got to go. So he's got to go some for you to go. Absolutely, I want Bowen, because again, you know, I've watched West Ham live a couple of times, and they're not that different from they were last season. So it's not like he's going to have bundles and bundles of chances in every game. He's going to have to be pretty clinical if he is to outscore some of the rest that are probably getting a lot more chances in the game.
I feel like he's on audition the next like 4 weeks for me. Like as a
14 game week 14.
Exactly. So 14, and I wouldn't want to take the Newcastle and Arsenal games before that as a sort of a yardstick to use. So next 4 games is kind of like the audition. Like if he's looking like he's on it, and West Ham improve, as you say, Dean, over the next 4 weeks, 14 when he's got Leicester, Wolves, Bournemouth, Brighton, and then Southampton, and then you can park him.
And it's over Christmas as well, isn't it? So you know his minutes are so good. So like as it gets tight over Christmas, there's those games tighten up. Then it feels like a good pick then.
Yep. Cool. Let's move on from there. The other big one is let's also obviously talk about City versus Wolves. So City here 2.55 expected goals with a 42% chance of a clean sheet. Wolves obviously struggling at the start of the season, and a lot of people have Haaland, a lot of people captaining Haaland. Obvious, or do we want more from the City lineup? Do we want Vardiol? Do we need Foden? Do we need who do we need? Do we need to be looking at anybody else right now?
I think Foden's probably the one, because Foden's the one that you think if he plays in the right position, he's capable of a massive score. Whereas I'm not sure. I think you'd have to get lucky almost with the others, whether it's Grealish, Bernardo, Doku, Silvinho. You feel like you'd have to get lucky. Whereas if you chose Foden and he went and scored 2, you wouldn't feel like that was luck. You'd feel like that. Yeah, you almost expected it because he's good enough, and if he plays in the right position, he'll be dangerous enough. So again, some Saka news might turn my eye towards a Foden possibly, because he's dynamite when he plays and gets going.
I love him so much. I love it like I've had so many good times at FPL last few seasons with Foden, but I think this is the first time I look at it. I'm like, uh, because you know that Palmer and Saka have got set pieces that they'll take, the corners just as an addition, if nothing else. I guess Foden could take corners potentially in the next couple as well. So there is that. But there's also other guys that can take them. And yeah, it's just knowing exactly what he's going to play, how he's going to play, the minutes he's going to play, when we haven't got any kind of evidence of what's going to happen in this, and it's just a lot of money. I do think, say for example yourself, who's like got 4 free transfers, if Saka was out, I'd be like, well, I could just shift down to Foden because I've still got a load of transfers and it's fine. I think when you've got 1 or 2, I'm not so sure as much for it. Albeit, I mean, Wolves, Southampton, Bournemouth, and Brighton, and obviously he loves playing Brighton. We know that from the end of last season at the Amex as well. But yeah, in between some European games, it's tempting, isn't it? Foden is really, really, really tempting.
Yeah, the rewards are there, aren't they? That's the thing. I think I'd almost rather risk getting Foden knowing he can produce something incredible for you than ticking along with somebody that might get, a single return for a few weeks. I don't know. I think that's personal preference as such, and your sort of levels of caution in the game. But I got none of his big scores last season, and I sort of kicked myself a little bit in terms of when there's a player that good and you think he's going to play, then it almost feels a bit stupid not to have him.
I think I pretty much sold him for all of those hauls last year as well. I did exactly what I did with Palmer a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, just sold him, hat trick. Yeah. Sold him, hat trick. Bought him back, sold him, hat trick. Yeah, no, he definitely has that explosiveness. I'm just looking at the fixtures for him as well. I mean, there's obviously people are concerned about rotation around that Southampton fixture. I think Pep's already come out and said that he's going to run a second 11 against Spurs in the Carabao.
I hope so.
We hope so. Obviously, yeah, we hope so for various reasons. Yeah, so I don't think there's going to be too many issues. Plus, it's a home game in Europe next week as well.
Yeah, home game in Europe as well. So it all looks good for that Southampton.
It feels
game.
good. It feels good, and I think those the people. I saw people talking about triple captain floating around for Haaland again, which is cool. Like, Wolves terrible at the moment. Southampton, I mean, they're just as much for the taking as Ipswich were in game week 2, in my opinion. So, a single game weeks go, the next 2, they're up there. They're definitely up there. Have you?
I mean, Foden's got no ownership, has he? I was just looking at this and thinking about if you did get it, like he's got a net transfers in this week currently of 28k. Yeah, compare that to Kovacic, who's got net K of 125k.
I love this
into
game.
It. James Justin's got 180k net in this week. No one's doing that move now. That might all change tomorrow if somehow we get news and says Saka's out, because people have got that money with it. Albeit, I still think the majority of people will probably just go Palmer. I think over if they can afford it, and I think people will be even more tempted to probably go Son over necessarily if Saka was out on it. But God, if you get these next 2 hauls, that's it, and it doesn't get much better. Like Wolves with no defenders, basically. If there was some, I don't know if anyone knows about the set plays, but if they are messages and so forth, because I did think as well is that Wolves look particularly ropey against set plays. If I knew he was on that.
Yeah, I've got no inside info, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
You need to be mates with one of these set piece coaches, you see.
That's what we need.
And then you get all the inside info.
Let's say Saka's okay. that moves us to Liverpool, Chelsea. I would say it's just then, because one of the ways in which people are looking at potentially selling is Diaz, because hey, he didn't start last game and it's post internationals, it's been away, and Gakpo's been playing really well. And also potentially, if people are looking at funding the Palmers, the Fodens in this world, they'll potentially sell Trent. Dean, how do you feel about Liverpool in general under Slot and the assets they've got?
Yeah, I mean, I started the season with Salah and Jota and felt pretty comfortable with that. And then Jota went slightly off the boil. I looked at Salah and Palmer as a matchup and thought who is going to outscore who in the next 6. And obviously Palmer went crazy on the first weekend, so that was almost done and dusted. But yeah, I just feel uncomfortable with, are they going to start? Are they going to get that early sub? I think actually the turning point was Jota sprinting off on the 59th minute, didn't he? Like sprinted off to lose 2 points, and Diaz strolled off and got the 2 points, and I was like, that's it. You know, I cannot cope with that. Like, I just can't.
I cannot believe he's put his team ahead of all of the FPL managers that own him. What a dick.
What's he thinking? What is he thinking?
I was absolutely fuming.
He obviously has Diaz. That's the thing.
Yeah.
So I'm just not. I don't know. I'm not. I just don't feel comfortable with knowing exactly which Liverpool asset to go for, and unless their fixtures are just unbelievable, then who am I going to take out? You know, a Saka, a Palmer, a Watkins, these type of players. I'm just not going to do it at the moment for a Liverpool player. But I do have Trent, so I do have that possibility to drop him down to go to a Liverpool midfielder if I feel like it.
Yeah.
I don't know whether we're getting further into the season and thinking that Trent's been both lucky and unlucky not to have scored more points, but I also feel like he's just generally less involved with his. I mean, it's clear from his baseline bonus that he's not creating as much as he used to. That's quite simple. He's getting into positions where he's shooting more, which is good for him. Not so great for us. But he's been getting the clean sheets because Liverpool have been getting clean sheets, so that's obviously good. He has had the most points out of any defender, but I'm still unsure as whether he is as essential as he has been in the past. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like, Anana's had the most points of any keeper, but we don't necessarily have to buy him. Do you know what I mean? Like that's the same. With Trent and those ones is if what we have seen is, as I said, a huge number of clean sheets. Do those clean sheets change without Addison?
Yeah, probably. They probably do.
Yeah,
surely.
Well, the bookies say they do immediately. Like even this is they're not a 30% team this week. And yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at this on here and thinking, I hate the idea of swapping Trent to Porro, and now I'm looking at it going, chances are higher for Tottenham clean sheet than they are for Liverpool. Maybe I should consider it. Yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult as well because see, Chelsea have got Cucurella out and they've got who else? Fafana's out.
Yeah, suspended.
And I don't know about Colwill because he had a knock, whether he's back in training or not. But all of those things are like, my God, like Diaz this week, taking a Liverpool attacker out when they've got 2 defenders out, taking Trent out when potentially, if he does play down the right, he's maybe up against Ben Chilwell or the likes. It's like, oh.
Yeah, the fixtures are a bit odd because it's kind of, they're not terrible, but they're not great at the same time. Like you sort of bookend, like Liverpool got Chelsea and Arsenal, Villa and City in the next 6. But they've also got Southampton and Brighton at home, which from attacking fixtures and defending fixtures, they're pretty good. So that's good. Spurs, West Ham, Palace, and Ipswich, but also Villa and City in there as well. So it's not like there's never. And again, I think we've said this a number of times. I've said it at the start of the season. For Spurs in particular, there isn't actually a run of fixtures for Spurs that are really, really good all season, or really, really bad. It's kind of like a couple of good ones, and then an odd one, and then a good one, then a bad one, and then it's. So it is really difficult to get on Tottenham for swings. You kind of just have to trust the players. Whereas with Liverpool, their fixtures will get better.
Yeah, they do get better after the City game. They do get better again.
Yeah, much better.
I think I think you make a great point, Ads, in terms of Trent's position. He is more central. When I think of when he's probably getting more assists, it's that back up to Salah making a run. It's back to him. It's then that delivery from that sort of position, whereas he is a lot more central. So if he's trying to put someone through on goal, that is a difficult. I know he's got it in the locker, but that is a difficult pass to play that straight over the top. Whereas that angled one is better. And I think, was it Jota that missed an absolute sitter of a header against Ipswich when he played that cross from that position?
Yeah.
I think Jota might have missed another header as well in the last game. But
right foot,
yeah. Again, if you watch Liverpool, Trent is massively involved, isn't he? He just is. So I think as a defender, if you're hoping and you're watching the games with your sort of fantasy head on, you'll enjoy watching it with Trent because he will be involved. You will feel like you're going to score points, and he probably will in the long term. If you sat on Trent all season, I think you'd be happy.
Yeah, yeah,
definitely. There's a few this weekend where they're quite hard to call, but also there's quite a lot of high-owned assets that people might be like, I'm just going to play them, but I'm not sure it's good. So Brentford away at Man United expected 1.28 goals versus Man United 2.1. That doesn't feel great for Bumo. Similar with sort of Rodgers and Watkins. Villa are 1.43 expected goals at Fulham, which is not huge at all. I suppose Chelsea 1.33 at Liverpool. So Palmer, it's quite a lot type fixtures. Really is. You look at the teams. In terms of the teams that are over 2 expected goals, or they're kind of the usual ones. Newcastle, I think, at home to Brighton. I don't know what the latest is on these, so maybe we'll find out tomorrow. But 1.9. I suspect it's just Newcastle at home, isn't it? And Brighton are. Well, they can make mistakes. As they did first half and us before they took us apart, which was not ideal. But I look at this week. I'm looking at it thinking, if we all own Haaland.
Yeah.
We all cap in Haaland.
Yeah.
If you haven't got Haaland, someone I think FPL Rover on Twitter tweeted me earlier and said, what do you think about Solanke cap if like Richie and Sons? But I was like, Solanke cap? Like, who are you capping him over? Like I love Dom and I'm very happy to have him in my team this week, but I ain't capping him. I think I suppose most people at Haaland have got Mo. I think you'd have to cap Mo, wouldn't you?
Or Saka, or Havertz, maybe.
Yeah, Havertz. If Saka's out, obviously Havertz will be on pens as well, wouldn't he? It's just, how creative are they?
That's why you should never not have Haaland. just don't not have him. Basically, he's unreal.
Yeah, it's weird because even with the sort of the enabler guys that we'll see in your team, Dean, and people have got Southampton, Leicester, just feels like we a while ago we used to say, Baker first said that Leicester games always start 1-1, and this, whilst different manager and everything, this does feel like a couple of goals in the game type game.
Yeah,
like no clean sheets.
There's a lot of games look at like a 2-1. Ipswich Everton doesn't look like anyone will clean, but no, probably not more than 2 goals for any team either. Fulham, Villa, Southampton, Leicester, Forest Palace. I mean, that Forest Palace has on it could be a 0.
That could be 0-0. Yeah,
it could easily be 0-0.
But outside of that, I think clear. like Wolves is probably the only one, and it's it's backed up here, but Wolves is the only one that I would probably say probably won't score. And then City always find a way, right? That's the thing about City at the moment. They find a way somehow to concede. So yeah, I'm not sure whether clean sheets are going to be too
prevalent.
That's the word I was looking for. Too prevalent this weekend at all.
Should we do teams?
Let's do teams. We can do teams. Yeah, we'll start. I'll start. So I've got one free transfer because I used all of mine, and I've got nothing in the bank. But I'm probably gonna roll is where I'm thinking at the moment. I don't see any real value in making a move this week. Saka news excluded, obviously, because Saka's fixtures get worse after this, so Saka could become someone else, and I could use. I probably wouldn't take a hit to make way, but I could, Saka to a Son, could happen, for example. But I've got Martinez in goal. I've got Trent, Porro, Lewis, and Gabriel. So no clean sheets, but I've gone 4 at the back, obviously. Rodgers, Bumo, Saka, and McNeil in midfield. Solanke, and then Haaland captain. And then my bench is Johnston, who's just sitting there waiting for game week 12, or whenever their fixtures start off. Leif Davis, Eze, and João Pedro just parked on my bench forever. Yeah, I don't think I need to do anything here, boys.
Well, I think with one transfer and not in the bag as well, it's like it's only ever going to be like for like, isn't it? And it's just not. It's got to get back. But talking about Eze versus someone, I mean, Rodgers probably is probably nearest.
Yeah, it probably is. It probably is the decision. Actually, I know he's sitting there second on my bench. I think it just defaulted to there. But yeah, I'm just not sure about Palace at the moment. They're just I'm just not enthralled by it. The problem with Eze is he's one of the most active players in the game right now, particularly in terms of shots. And obviously he gets the 2 big chances that he gets against Liverpool, fluffs them, but he still has them, still gets them. Yeah, I think Eze is the one that probably is a question mark. Yeah,
I mean, like I say, I'd 100% lean on Eze over Rodgers. I think in virtually any game, but in a game where it said it's Villa expected to get 1.4, I'm like, chances that one is Rodgers. You're very unlucky if that one's Rodgers. At least with like 1.2, whatever it is for Palace, I'm like, I feel like there's more chance that he's having something in it.
Him,
yeah, it's just in terms of routes to it. It feels. Yeah, for me, I would be as over Rodgers, and it's quite a good ownership play. Like taking on Rodgers in a week when he's quite well owned and it's a bad week, it's always a good chance to take him on. So yeah, it would be as for me. What would you do?
Would I back Villa or would I back Crystal Palace? I know you. If you're saying who may be involved, well, everything goes through him for Palace, but ultimately Villa are a top 4, top 5 side. So in any given game, you could expect them to stick 2 or 3 past Fulham if they play near their potential. So, and again, I've watched Villa a good few. Him and Watkins, Rodgers and Watkins, the combination between those two is, again, should have had plenty more points, Rodgers, than he has. And again, I'm kind of just sat there waiting for it still to happen and can't help but watch Villa and every time think he looks really good. He looks like he's involved. He's going to play the full game. And yeah, I think that's quite low, the prediction for Villa against Fulham.
Perfect. You've helped greatly, boys. Thanks.
Well, the only other, obviously, it's 3:00 game Saturday, but Villa play on the Tuesday. It's at home. It shouldn't impact.
So I was like, how long is this game week? Okay,
yeah. So Villa got Bologna on the Tuesday night. So at least there is a turnaround piece in it. But yeah, it's go where you go. I think around that one.
Yeah, it'd be a coin toss type thing. But that's where I am. And as I say, I think barring Saka news, I will probably roll. I mean, so let's say we get Saka news then. Let's say we get Saka news that Saka's out. Like, would you make that transfer, or would you just plonk Eze in there alongside him, like instead? Because I'm looking at Arsenal's fixture. They've got Liverpool next week, then Newcastle, Chelsea. Like, it feels like getting money out then would be a good plan. Like, and I feel like that has to be, it makes the most sense.
I do think a Tottenham mid is, and maybe or a Foden is so tempting, it would be hard to not.
Having the City slot available there is tempting. And then I've got to ask myself, would I rather have triple Tottenham in this run or triple City in this run? I think actually I'd probably lean towards City. Although, Son, like from a minutes point of view, well, I guess he's just coming back from injury. But then so's Foden.
Yeah, but you could do something like Saka to Brennan this week, and that would give you the funds. It might even give you the funds for Eze to Palmer, but it probably not quite that. But it definitely would give you the funds for Eze to Foden. So you'd have the money sitting there that if we got a league next week that he was starting against Southampton, you could just go Eze to Foden.
So you need 2.5 roughly, don't you, to go Eze Foden? 6.9 to 9.5, 9.4, something like that.
But you're going to go 10 and a bit to 6.5 for Johnson, so you're going to get 3.5 million in there. So that would be tempting.
Yeah, it might stretch to Palmer. Well, Palmer's like 10.7 though, isn't he?
Yeah, it might. It's just if you're going to continue, because like, obviously you bench for Eze multiple times now. In that sense, it's like after a little while, like might as well plan an exit plan for it.
Yeah. No, agreed. Okay, cool. Food for thought. I guess the chat's ripping me to pieces at the moment. I'd bench Lewis.
Really?
I'd bench Lewis. I'd play Eze over Rodgers. Eze to Brennan. Porro will concede and won't get a return. Eze for Porro.
Normal stuff.
No, normal stuff.
Yeah, now Dom, I think, his Porro is obviously going to get. I mean, that's even part of the thing I was saying about bring Porro in. Anybody who goes Trent to Porro this week, you're getting the clean sheet wiped out in about 6 minutes into the game week at like 12:40, and then you're like, now I gotta wait till 4 o'clock on Sunday afternoon for Trent to play. Good times. That is how this game works.
That is how the game works. Cool. Let's move on to you, Baker. We'll finish with the main man.
So Ryan in goal, Lewis, Trent, Gabriel, and then Bumo, Diaz, Rodgers, Saka, Solanke, Haaland, Calvert-Lewin. I've got Semenyo first bench. Got Mikalenko and Greaves. I was going to ask you that one. If we got things saying that Lewis isn't playing, would you play Mikalenko? It sounds like Mikalenko's back. Would you play Mikalenko or Greaves this week? I'm asking a Norwich boy. Surely you're going to say to me, play Mikalenko, Dean.
It depends if Branthwaite's playing. If Branthwaite's playing, I'd go Mikalenko. If Branthwaite isn't playing, I'd go Greaves. I think he's that important to Everton.
They were both in training. As far as I think I saw, they're both in. They're both back in training this week.
They were.
Yeah, he said something though, about Mikalenko's fine basically, and Branthwaite's like not far behind, basically, something like that. So he still almost suggested he's not fighting Branthwaite, and I'm like, okay, but it's a big game. It's a big game. It's a huge game.
Yeah. I think Branthwaite will play.
Yeah.
And therefore I'd go Mikalenko, knowing Branthwaite's probably going to play. If Lewis isn't.
Sensational in the chat. Miko isn't back, isn't he? Not sure he starts. Branthwaite out also. I love this game.
Oh, apparently he is. I don't know. We'll
find out tomorrow.
If he's not, you play Greaves, don't you? If they're struggling, they've got no players. I'd still play Greaves probably over transferring someone in defence. And I think it's enough that I'd probably put Semenyo in front of them, even though, it's bad hedging when it's full hedging when I've got double Arsenal defence, but I never mind when that one wipes out. So my things are, when I've got 2 free transfers, 0.4 in the bank, is Diaz is the one I'm looking at. It is similar in that sense of I don't see him lasting very long. I see him going this week or next week or in the next couple of weeks. I really want Palmer. The only way really I get to Palmer is probably selling Trent. And to sell Trent this week to get, if I wanted to go Diaz to Palmer, it would be going down to like a 8 Nori or a Van der Ven. It's not pretty where you would be going this week with the fixtures they've got. I'd want to play like Mikolenko and Greaves if it got to that sort of stage. So, and Palmer's obviously it's not the greatest fixture for him. So I don't think I'll go there this week. I'm just contemplating, would I go, do I just play Diaz again this week, get the free transfers, work it out next week? Or do I just go Diaz to, so I can go Diaz to Maddo, I could do Diaz to Brennan. That's all on the table. I could go full Spurs and do Trent to Porro as well, and Diaz to Son or Diaz to Foden. Those sort of things are in your mind, and it's like, yeah. The funny thing with Diaz, like if you go to Brennan, is it's a bit similar to Diaz, isn't it? In a way of hot player, not really on set pieces, doesn't rarely play 90 minutes, and you're like, does that hot streak disappear a bit, and then I'm using another transfer on that guy again, or not? I don't know.
Yeah, I think Diaz is going to split a lot of people because of him not playing and Gakpo playing and international break, and with that sort of player and that sort of slot, it does feel like you've got to get it right, doesn't it? Because if others do, it does make such a massive difference with those type of players that can sort of explode and get a goal and assist or 2 goals. Those sort of things can make such a difference that. But then again, Luis Diaz could play and he's a top player and could. Yeah. So it's. I think these decisions are really tough when you're just not quite sure on potential minutes, I guess.
I think with the next fixtures, I mean, look at the fixtures for Liverpool now, though. Like, look who they've got to play. There's Chelsea this week, then they're going away to Leipzig.
How quickly they've got to play.
Yeah, away to Leipzig, away to Arsenal, then Brighton away, Brighton home, then Leverkusen, and then Villa.
Yeah, I actually don't think he's particularly sustainable. That's my feelings on Diaz.
That's like 3 weeks.
Is if we look at the last 5 games in the league, 65, 59, 71, 72, 18 in the minutes. When he scored a brace, so the 2 games he scored a brace, he had 0.6 XG in those. Even that's not huge for a brace. That's incredible overperformance. But in the other 3 games, 0.1, 0.1, 0.1. Like, it is really feast or famine, with Diaz at the moment. I'm quite happy to free the money up with him. It's whether you free the money up fully in Trent as well, and then it leads you to maybe Foden. So it's basically Trent and Diaz to Porro and Foden, or it's Diaz to Brennan and have a pot of money.
I like them both.
I do like them both.
I like them both.
Yeah, I think I probably prefer the Porro Foden just because Spurs fixtures are going to be good over the next 4, really. And obviously, yeah, you can bench him for City. Like, you can bench Porro for City, and that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I think if we get a league component, I could still go there.
And then if Saka, like, what's the Saka plan?
It's a very good question. I think if Saka is out, I might stick with the same plans anyway. I would be probably maybe slightly happier about playing Semenyo. I like Saka. It might sway me because obviously I could do something like Diaz to Johnson and Saka to Palmer, and then it's like, well, there you go. All nice boys in there. Haven't sold Trent. So it could be that.
Okay.
It could be that. You can't help yourself. Like, I mean, we're going to get to units where you actually got those transfers. But once you get to 2 transfers, it's still that bane in my mind that says, I've got 2 now, so I could just use it. But if I just used 1 this week and just went Diaz to Brennan, going into next week with 2 free transfers again, nearly 2 million in the bank, you've got a lot of options open.
Yeah, there's a question like, Why not do you could do like Trent and Milenkovic, like Forest's next 3 in particular, pretty good. Palace, Leicester, West Ham.
Mm.
Even
I like
Newcastle
Milenkovic.
at home's probably a good one. And then Ipswich in 13. Some good ones there.
Yeah.
He's been good on the bonus, hasn't he, old Milenkovic?
Oh, he's good.
He's
Good
rocking
full
it.
stop. Him and Murillo have been incredible. But it's power in it.
It's power on it.
I love him.
The blinkers come on when it comes to Spurs. Definite kryptonite. Cool. Should we move on?
Oh, let's see this magnificent team.
Right, Dean, you got to read it out for people who are listening, who will not be watching. But if you could just read out and let everybody know what you reckon.
So I've got Sells in goal, Davis, Trent, Gabriel at the back. I've got Palmer and Buemo, Rodgers, Saka, and Dibbling in midfield, and Watkins, Haaland up front, with Everson, Fass, Vanderberg, and Stewart on my bench. So I have got a measly bench, and that is something I've wanted, because like Adam looked at your squad, and you've got those real genuine headaches, that you've got to think about every single week, which I'm sure will help when the deeper we go into the season and there are some big changes. But I just thought, especially at the start of the season, when I would expect most players to play and be fresh, and so I've just put all my money basically into the team. Now I've got 4 free transfers sat there, nothing in the bank, but obviously what that does mean, I'm super tempted to roll and have the magical 5, because when I'm looking at, unless there's news on Saka, I'm looking at really only wanting to change those fringe players, and who do I change them to, and is there really any point at the moment? Obviously, Saka news would be huge, because then that would free up a little bit of money if I wanted to go to Brennan, or I could go to a Maddison, I could go to a Son, I could go to a Foden. But when you have those transfers, which I've got to say, lads, is delicious. It's really hard not to just think, well, I can use all 4, maybe even a 5th now, and take a -4 because I've started the season well, type of thing, and really make some big changes. But the only real changes in my mind would be Saka and Palmer. They're the only 2, because their fixtures aren't amazing in the next 4 or 5. And I could do like what I did with Palmer and Salah. I could do, is Palmer going to outscore Foden in the next, 3 or 4? Is Saka going to outscore a Son or a Maddison in the next 4? That's the only thing I'm thinking, because that is something I'm trying to do a bit more of, is do a versus for 2 players over a 4 or 5 week period, and then probably in 4 or 5 weeks I would have 4 transfers again, probably.
I mean,
to go back.
I think this has done so well, but I also think it's like, I've always been that case where if I have no bench, then I'm never going to save my transfers. I'm constantly going to have to do something to keep my team alive and do all that stuff, and it quickly come crashing down. But this has been fantastic, and the 2 cheapo defenders are both look relatively nailed now. Stewart's getting some minutes as well. Like, if you did need to play him, it's there. And Dibbling's obviously great. Interesting, actually, just looking at your team with Dibbling. One of the other options I could do with Saka is maybe just drop Semenyo down to Dibbling and raise some money with that one, and then I'd happily play Dibbling this week. So that is another one to think about. But yeah, the team looks so strong.
But it's making it hard to know if I am going to make changes. It's going to have to be to the big players. I'm so loath to even think about changing Watkins to a Solanke, for example, because I just think Watkins is a machine. I just think, again, if I sat on him all season, I think he will just continue to deliver. I think he will in any game. But do I look at a Watkins v a Solanke over the next 4 or 5 and think next 4 and think, is Solanke going to outscore it? And maybe they're the big decisions I've got to make rather than than maybe worrying about my bench and strengthening that as such.
It's a good position though, isn't it? Like, it's like when you're, it's not like I'm chasing it and I don't even know what rank I'm now, a couple of million, basically. I kind of do need to find some stuff to get going, but you're at 21k. If you're in position, most of the players you've got there, people want, because they've obviously scored loads of points. This is the thing. I listened to what brilliant was yesterday was the pod Raptor does FPL therapy, which he did with guy Simon March. Simon March was talking about rowing, not rowing, sailing, sorry, and saying about a way that the teams that get ahead, basically what they then start doing is they just go, I'll just do whatever the person behind me is doing because he can't catch me if I'm just doing that. Like, so they gamble early on, take a few things, so you've done this stretch of what you've done, and then if you keep doing what everyone else is doing, then you're like, well, they're not catching me, mate. But if you've got 5 free transfers, you can always do what everybody else has done and stuff. You've got the ability that if your strategy suddenly doesn't work, you can flip to whatever strategy you like on this one. So I think if you can get the 5, just get the 5. Why don't you get the 5 and then it's like, oh, I'll do 2 transfers this week and I'll go back to 4 again.
Do you get a prize or a badge or anything if you get to 5?
You'll find out, mate.
Or an above average coaster, maybe one of those as well.
Yeah, Adam, will get the. You better get on the old gift pack, mate.
We'll send them. But you have to get there first.
They were snaffled up at the fest. People couldn't get enough of them.
Mate, we'll send you some. Don't worry about
that. Yeah, we still got some here.
Yeah, loads. Yeah, that was. I mean, looking at the team. I mean, like, I'm not in a position to give anyone advice, really. But
we're not. No. I mean, you definitely qualify, mate.
but the Watkins to Solanke move feels like a good one. Just as a, if you're going to take a transfer, if you say, look, I'm going to take 2 transfers out of this 4, and use one of them now, use one of them in like game week 12. And over the next 4 weeks, is Solanke going to outscore Watkins? I think I'd make that bet. I think I'd make that bet on that particular move. The rest of them, the fact that you've got, as you say, like solid minutes, apart from Stewart, but solid minutes guys on the bench, I don't think it's a problem. We were speaking pre-pod. I mean, like, most players blank, right? Most players are you're more likely to blank than you are to haul in a given week, and you don't need to have 11 players return in a week to have a good week. So if you do have a week where somebody drops out and you get a Voutfast 2-pointer, then cool. Somebody else has probably got like an 8 million player that's got 2 points. Let's look at Bruno Fernandes for a perfect example of that. And so, it's, as you say, in this time of the season as well, when most people aren't looking at bench boost, and that's kind of coming later on in the season, and we have chips to deal with that, and we can even build up 5 free transfers to deal with that. Like, it's something that I guess, I don't know, I feel like it's something that we didn't think of at the start of the season when we're trying to build this meta of how it's going to work. Like, the 5 free transfers and having the basically like no bench actually feels like a really good way to go.
It's strong because when you look at it, this is the bit that I suddenly was like, yeah, it must be. This must just fall apart, and I was like, hold on. Davis nailed, Trent nailed, Gabriel nailed, Palmer nailed, Bumo nailed, Rodgers nailed, Saka nailed, Dibbling nailed, Watkins nailed. Oh, right, everyone's nailed. Great. It's not like you got Lewis who's going to get benched every week, or this we've got to worry about. You got no Diaz. You got none of it. It's like, oh, everyone's nailed. Good for you, Dean. Just for Matt Sells, obviously you need to pay attention to that. I did message Matt Davies, who runs the Forest Focus Pod. It's great Forest Pod, to ask him if he had any news about Sells. They seem to think there's not a lot of noise. They think he's okay. He had apparently had some kind of knock in like the warm up before the last game, but obviously played, so should be fine. It's flagged, but he thinks it's okay. So I said, let me know if that changes. But yeah, he seemed to think it was fine. The only Adam Watkins, what you said there, I do think obviously Tottenham will score more goals over the. I hope they score more goals over the next 5. But Son's back, Richie's back, yeah, and that doesn't necessarily even impact Solanke's minutes potentially, because there's multiple competitions and all that stuff. But when you're thinking about like if Tottenham score 3, Tottenham just scored 2, and obviously he got 1 assist and so forth, but Brennan Johnson, everyone wants Brennan Johnson. They think he could get a brace. It's like, well, maybe he could, but also Son could, and Madison could score, and Kulusevski can score, and Solanke can score, and Noah Richarlison can score. Like, and we all think, Porro can score a banger and do all that stuff. And Romero scores quite a lot for a centre back. There's a lot of different players that can score, and we're not scoring 5 or 6 every game. Whereas you just know if there's like a 3-0 coming at some point for Villa, and they're a good enough team that they would do, he can do a 20-pointer. He has those things. He does do those things. He's done them before. But the likelihood that the goal still goes through him, even with the rise of Duran, he's still the big dog, isn't he?
Yeah. Emery loves him. Emery absolutely loves him, and you're right. And I don't think Villa have had a penalty either, so we don't know if Watkins is going to say, actually, my stature's grown a bit. The England goal, him as a player, I don't know. Rodgers takes penalties, doesn't he? For England under 21s, I think he's took one, but and Tielemans takes them. So, but Watkins might this season say, actually, no, I'm going to get back on him. He might have been practicing them. I don't know, but we're still waiting on that as such. But just going back to something you just said in terms of, I hadn't actually thought about it like that in terms of 5 free transfers, and I haven't burnt any points yet this season. So say you did a -8, you can change 7 of that starting 11. Yeah. That seems and feels pretty massive to be able to do that.
Monstrous. Or maybe just have a bank of transfers for the rest of the season. Like even if that number goes down to 2 at some point, but you sit around and you can whenever I want, I can do this. The Watkins to Solanke one, I think it becomes more worthwhile if you spend the money, with it. So if it's does Watkins versus Solanke to me say, yes, that's a brilliant move. Well, depends on what you might need that 1 and a bit million quid for. Like if that one is also doing a different move, because
about faster Vardiol, for example,
or if there's an injury, don't forget we were like something else. It's like, oh, actually now I would like to do that because something else has happened. I think it's.
I think as soon as you start, though, you start to make 1 and you think, actually, I'll spend it, and then you make 2, and then before you know it, you'll have no transfers. You'll have 1 free transfer next week, and you'll be back with the rest of us.
Yeah, I'll be thinking Baker's talked me into this.
Albeit you'll probably be at 8K.
This is a team. This is an actual team that could go in game week 10 with Haaland, Salah, and Palmer. And nobody would have those 3 in the team. But you could do, say, for example, Watkins down to a Wood or Calvert-Lewin, and you'd have the money to do, say, Saka to Salah. Nobody could do that.
Yeah.
And if you did it when you were on 5 free transfers, and then you still had 4, you did it and say, well, I'm going to do this for a couple of weeks and have 4 transfers in the bank. Like those are some positions which I am not. I'm not getting there.
Yeah.
Well, you made me feel even better about the team. God. Thanks.
You're not made us feel better at all. Genuinely, we actually said that team over. We were like, oh god.
Let's get it off. Let's get it off the screen. Let's get it off the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's us. Just over an hour. That's good. That's good pace for us. That's good pace for us. We can go off on tangents a bit, but we kept pretty straight and narrow today. Has anyone got any questions in the chat? Then just give us a shout quickly, and we can answer them. While people are asking questions, so you're a keen golfer, Dean? Do you enjoy a game?
I am. Yeah, I absolutely love it. Yeah. Obviously, with the injury that I had, I am limited somewhat to sort of sporting activity that I can do, and golf is just perfect. Competitive, enjoyable in terms of where you can go, getting outside. I absolutely love it. 4 hours with your mates and a couple of beers afterwards. Perfect.
Easy.
Adam, I know what you want to say is Adam wants to find out if he's a lower handicap than you or not. That's what he really wants to find out.
I reckon he probably is. Probably it's at Mars.
What are you, Adam? What are you?
What am I now? 7.2, something like that.
Close. 6.3. I am.
I
was like 6.3 a month ago, but I've gone up.
I'm not playing with you boys. I'm not playing with you boys.
You'll have to find
13.4 at the moment. 30. That's
you'll have to find a fourth Dean or a partner Dean, and then we'll take you on.
Absolutely.
At some point next year, we'll find somewhere north of London, just somewhere in that region that you know best.
Perfect.
And we'll do that. We'll do that. But some questions are coming in, so that's all good. So Denise says, should I start Rogers or Smith Rowe? Like, it's the same game.
Oh, playing each other, isn't they?
It's the same game. Would you take Smith Rowe at home? I don't know. I might,
Oh, I think I'll play Rogers. Yeah. I think I'll play Rogers over Smith Rowe.
Have we lost Dean?
We lost him. Either that or he's in the most for anyone's ever been on Rogers v Smith Rowe.
Oh no, nightmare.
We have lost him.
We've lost him. That is we're still live, so that's good.
Oh.
Hopefully he comes back. Here he comes.
Just on his side. There he is.
Beautiful.
Apologies.
No worries.
That looked like you were in really deep thought. The question was Rogers or Smith Rowe, and then you paused and it was like, he's thinking hard about this one.
I mean, look, I've got Rogers, and I got rid of Smith Rowe a few game weeks ago. I don't think there's a lot in it. I don't. I think they could match each other, if anything. So I wouldn't be too worried if I had both. I wouldn't be too worried. I'd just go with maybe looking at those stats that you've already shown and other stats that are there to maybe just give an edge to one or the other.
Fair enough. Zubin asks a question about number 9s, which is good. So Liam Delap or Jimenez on wildcard?
They've both got really good fixtures coming up, Fulham and Ipswich in the next 5 or 6. I think they've got very decent fixtures. I would probably go Delap. I think Delap's more likely to outscore in terms of goals than Jimenez. Okay. Jimenez maybe slight more chance of assists, but I think Delap's more likely to play more minutes as well. So with Muniz being part of Fulham's team.
Again, do we know about penalties for Ipswich? I guess we don't.
No. Great question.
Not a defined taker is the sort of thing from last year, but there's a good chance he could be.
But so there was Marco Silva came out and said that he gave Jimenez basically a bollocking because it was supposed to be Pereira that's on pens. And he said it won't happen again. So he's not going to be on pens. I can work with Delap.
Yeah. The weird one about obviously if you're on wildcard and you put Delap in, you really want Delap to play the next 3 games, really, or in 8 and 10. I would only probably, and it's like, well, who am I benching? like, because your wildcard team's gonna have loads of good players, hopefully. So it's like, if your wildcard, do you have him and then you still put him first bench? I quite like it if you were, say, you were going like a couple of cheap strikers, so you had say Kuna and Delap. But then you could have, say, Delap for the next few, and then by the time Kuna's games get better, then it's like, well, I can bench Delap a little bit more for it. That'd be my only thing about it. Is I like Delap, but it's like, I don't know. After game week 10, how much do he'll just sit on my bench all the time, and maybe that's okay.
Yeah. A couple more. So Raffle asks, Bowen to Johnson or Maddison for the next 4, or just roll? Because this is a Palmer spot from game week 12. So Bowen to Johnson or Maddison for the next 4, or just roll? I would move it. I would move to Johnson or Madison, and then get to Palmer in game week 12.
Yeah, in a heartbeat, I would do it. I think the way Tottenham are playing, I think I think that's a difficult choice if you've got the money to, whether it's Madison or Brennan. I think that is a difficult choice. As I do think sort of Madison's being overlooked slightly with the sort of Brennan bandwagon because he's on this run, but he does only score 1 goal on this run.
It does.
Be nice if he'd have banged 2 in a game, for example. But I like Madison personally. I like Madison.
Fair enough. And we'll finish with, what's your favourite lager? Why not?
Red Stripe.
Oh,
Red Stripe.
Very nice.
Yeah. Difficult to find it on tap these days. Very difficult. But if you do, beautiful.
Very good. Very good. Guys, thank you very much in the chat for joining us here. There's 250 of you. So do make sure you hit the like button on your way out. Dean, been an absolute pleasure. Smashing it as well. So, great to see and hope you continue to smash it. I'll see you next week with your 5 free transfers for your coaster and your mug and all that jazz. And no, thanks for coming on, man.
No, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me, and top work you've been doing. Like I said at the fest, I listen to you boys and plenty of the other people that are producing the content and helping us all out, really.
Good stuff.
I was just going to share another guy in the chat. Lego Mano's in the chat. And again, to show how much Dean is one of us, is before we started, we just called a ticker up straight away, and Dean was like, "Oh, is that Legos?" I was like, "That'll freak him out. That'll freak him out." When he was even you know that he's the fixture man.
Absolutely love it.
Yeah,
excellent. Well, guys, thank you very much. Good luck for game week 8, and we will see you back on Sunday. Cheers, guys.
See you later, boys.